Middlemen is a 2009 film directed by George Gallo. It's written by Gallo and Andy Weiss, and we have a cast including Luke Wilson, Giovanni Ribisi, James Caan, Kelsey Grammer, Terry Crews. It's because of Kelsey Grammer that I became aware of this, and I read the description and thought this could go either way. I could enjoy it, I could dislike it, and honestly, I'm kind of in the middle. I learned some things. It's based on a true story, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but I wouldn't necessarily say I enjoyed it. But I didn't dislike it either. There's nothing about it that I think didn't work very well. I just didn't find it to be as interesting as it perhaps could have done. This is based on the true story or the true experiences of Christopher Mallick, who, without going into too much detail, was responsible for a lot of internet billing companies. And the film looks at basically the beginning of, I don't know if I can say this on YouTube without getting demonetized, of adult content on the internet. And the film is initially about how that was started by the character Jack Harris, and then how they progressed into internet billing. And obviously people pay a lot of money for adult content on the internet, and a lot of the problems that arise with that, and things that get kind of dangerous as well. Now, within the film, I didn't find that to be that interesting. As a topic, it doesn't appeal to me. As a story, I didn't really care for it. And that's largely why I didn't really like this. Not necessarily because it's badly done. I think the narrative is handled well, but I didn't care for it. But I did do some Googling about the true events and Christopher Mallick. I'd not heard of him before to my recollection, and I enjoyed learning about the true story. And if you are interested in this film and you do enjoy it, I would say absolutely do a bit of research if you're not familiar with the true experiences of Mallick, because that was quite interesting, because obviously that's real, and I found that to be quite fascinating. But within the film, I didn't really find it that interesting. I didn't really care for it. It just didn't appeal to me very much. The performances are very good, though. The characters are generally very well written, and I don't have any issues with that at all. The technical aspects are all fine. As I said, the narrative seems to be really well handled. I just didn't personally find it to be that interesting. So it's not a bad film. There's nothing about Middlemen that I don't think worked. But I can't deny the fact that for me personally, I just didn't care about it. I just never found that I was that invested in the story or in the characters' journeys. But as I said, it did lead me to doing some research outside of the film, and I did find that quite fascinating. So it wasn't a terrible experience, but I definitely wouldn't watch it again. Do I recommend it? If you're curious, I would absolutely recommend it. I'd love to know if anybody watches it and they're already familiar with Christopher Mallick, and maybe you have a good knowledge of Mallick's story. Do you think the film represented some of what he experienced in a good way? I genuinely have no idea. So I did some research, but not a tremendous amount. I was just curious to see kind of what it was like. This was actually produced in part by Mallick, which in itself is quite interesting. So it's a fascinating concept. The execution didn't appeal to me very much, but I learned some things, and that's always a benefit. And as I said, there's nothing about the film that's badly done. It just wasn't completely for me. So if you're curious, if you think it might be for you, I'd say check it out. I wouldn't watch it again, but Middlemen is definitely not a bad film.